வணக்கம் தலம் நேயர்களே. சௌந்தர்யா அமெரிக்கால படிக்க வந்துட்டு அவங்க ஒரு இடத்துக்கு வேலைக்கு போயிட்டு, அந்த வேலை என்னோட வேலை முடிஞ்சதுப்பா, நான் லோன் எல்லாம் கட்டிட்டேன்ப்பா, இனிமேல் நான் சுதந்திரமா இருக்கலாம் அப்படின்னு நினைச்சு, ஆனா அந்த சுதந்திரமா ரெக்கை விட்டு பறக்கும் பொழுதுதான் தெரியுது அப்படிலாம் சுதந்திரம் உங்களுக்கு கிடைக்கல. யூ ஹேவ் டு கண்டினியூ டு ஒர்க் அப்படிங்கிற அந்த ஒரு குண்டுக்குள்ள அடைப்படும் போதுதான் அந்த சௌந்தர்யாக்கு நோ என்னோட ரெக்கை நான் விரிச்சு நான் பறக்கணும். எப்படி நான் விரிச்சு பறக்கலாம் அப்படின்னு இந்த சின்ன வயசுல இந்த பொண்ணு சுதந்திரமா இப்ப ரெக்கையை விரிச்சு பறக்குறாங்க. அவங்களுக்குன்னு தேவையான விசா அவங்களே கண்டுபிடிச்சு அவங்களே அப்ளை பண்ணி போராட்டத்தோட இந்த அளவுக்கு அவங்க சக்சஸ்ஃபுல்லா இருக்கிறாங்க. அந்த அனுபவத்தை அவங்களே வச்சுக்காம அவங்க அனுபவம் இன்னும் பல பேரோட அனுபவத்தை எடுத்து ஒரு புத்தகமா Unshackled அப்படிங்கிற ஒரு புத்தகமா எழுதி இப்ப அது பப்ளிக் அவைலபிளா இருக்கு. அது மட்டும் இல்லாம என் ஜேர்னில இன்னும் பல பேர் ஜாயின் பண்ணலாம் அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு ஒரு கம்யூனிட்டியும் ஃபார்ம் பண்ணி ரொம்ப அருமையா ஆயிரக்கணக்கான மக்களுக்கு இந்த சின்ன வயசுல இம்பாக்ட் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்காங்க.
ரொம்ப நன்றி. Very good to be here and very hello for everyone who's listening to this or watching this.
Okay, Soundarya, thanks for joining. Thanks for your time. What is your journey? Why you chose to write this book, Unshackled? What is instrumental and what is the reason of writing this book behind?
The Unshackled was very much born out of personal struggle with the immigration system. I know that you said a lot of people who listen to your podcast are people who are outside the US, not inside. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure they know that to enter a new country, you need to get this thing called a visa stamp on your passport. The struggle doesn't end there. I think people think once I get my student visa or once I get my work visa, that's it. That's enough for me. At least in my case, I felt pretty disillusioned. I came to the US on a student visa and then I got into the H-1B. I thankfully got my name picked in the lottery the first year itself. Mm-hmm. I got the H-1B through Salesforce, which is where I was working as a product manager. I really wanted to quit my job within the first few months itself. I knew I would quit my job someday.
Okay.
I was waiting to pay back my loan first so I could finish that, have no debt, and then start anything I want to start. Which is what I did. I paid off my loan within the end of first year out of college, which was great at Salesforce. Thanks to Salesforce for paying such great salaries, and I saved a lot of money.
Okay.
That's when I realized immigration doesn't work that way. You can't just quit your job because you want to and stay in the country. Status in the country, your residence hinges upon you having a job and a sponsor, an employer sponsor. And that's when I began doing kind of a research project into how immigration worked. And I wasn't thinking of writing a book at this point. Mm-hmm. I just wanted to do it for myself. Okay. And that was kind of the birth of how I got into immigration as a whole. I can share more, but I'll stop there.
Got it. So this book is all about immigration. This book is all about visa. This book is all about your experience and what you found and what you discovered. I think discovered.
Sorry, I just want to correct one thing you said because it's not about my experience at all, actually.
Okay.
I mean, you would barely find me talking about my immigration story in the chapters. Other people's immigration journeys, other immigrants who've taken unconventional paths to get to their finish line, whether that is to start a company, to get green card, or to leave the country. We actually cover the story of an immigrant who left the US as well.
So, when you say unconventional way, I don't know whether I shared with you that my journey reaching US and living here is also unconventional way. So I think we can talk about that when the right time in this conversation. So, okay, let me touch that point. So that could be a triggering point also. So I am here. I'm a US citizen right now. But how I came here is I started my company in India and I started my sales office in US. I sponsored L1 for myself and I came here. 2 years, and then green card and then citizen. I never worked for any company in US. I never studied in any university in US. I'm a hustler. So I started a company there. Hey, I want to be here. And, luckily I got a good attorney who guided me. Hey, Arun, you have this opportunity. Do you want to do this? And I said, yes, absolutely. So that is how I am here today. So this is a completely unconventional. Nobody ever heard about this. Wherever when I talk about this journey, they say, wow, did you do that? So can you do that? So I hear most of the feedback like that. So like this path, what you discovered is you discovered many other ways that people can come here to achieve their dream. So, and also very exciting that you also not considered your journey. You also spoke with many people and found what way they achieved this American dream of living here, coming here, working here. That's great. So tell me about what is the top two things you learned in writing the content of this Unshackled.
One thing I'll say, which I think would be valuable for your listeners, is the presence of the O1 visa. I knew about the O1 even before I worked on the book. The main reason I began working on the book is because I got my O1 visa denied. And I felt like I really wanted to write about the existence of this pathway that most people didn't know about. There's a good chance your listeners are thinking, what the hell is an O1 visa right now? The O1 was introduced along with the H1B in 1990 during the Immigration Act of 1990. And it's very similar to the H1B in the sense that it is a temporary work visa. You need an employer to sponsor you, but it has some interesting differences. Number one, does not need you to go through a lottery system. Number two, it is great for founders because you don't have to take a minimum wage on the O1, unlike the H1B. And third, it can be renewed forever, technically. You can keep renewing it as much as you want. Except 1 out of 100 people may even know about the existence of the O1, and even that person might not understand how the requirements work very well. So I think a big part of what I've spent the last 2 years is educating people about the existence of these talent visas. O1 is one of them. There's a few others as well. And so that's one big discovery, let's say, from the book.
So I want to just highlight one feedback to you. Last week, I'm a community leader. People know me in Dallas. One of the person reached me, say that, hey, Arun, I recently heard about this O1 visa. Can you help to process a visa for my wife? So that is the kind of awareness you created. The credit goes to you. So when someone who knows me can reach me and talk about it, and matter of fact, I told them, hey, I'm going to do an interview with her next week. And you will learn a lot about it. Okay. So one thing what you said is like in this O visa doesn't require lottery system. It is work like H1 visa, and there is no renewal restriction. You can keep renewing it. Right. So let us a little bit go deep into it. Right. So what is the difference between H visa, H1 and O visa? Right. Can they come and work, or they can come and start a business? Because H1, you cannot start a business. I mean, like technically.
You can, but we'll talk about that.
Yes. Okay. So what is the difference between H1 and why these bigger corporates preferred H1? Because if they would have known this O visa, they would have banged on this. But some reason they use H1 visa. That is the reason why many people know about H1, right? So can you please throw some light on that?
Absolutely. Excellent question. The biggest difference between the visas in terms of the eligibility is that the O visa is meant for people who are at the top of their fields. People in science, education, business, arts, athletics, TV industry. Any of these industries are okay. But you have to show that you are one of the top experts in that field, either nationally or internationally. And so that's why you don't see companies using that visa, because not 1% of population may be qualified. But it doesn't mean you cannot be qualified 3 years from now. I mean, the way they test if you're at the top of your field is through 8 criteria. So in the book, we call them the 8 pillars. There's things like, do you have press published on your work? Have you published articles in major publications out there? Do you take a high salary for what you do? Do you play a critical role in your company? So there's this beautiful 8-pillar diagram we had in that O1 chapter, which I really like. So if you can say you meet 3 out of 8 criteria, you satisfy the requirements to get the O1 visa. So that's the difference between H1 and O1.
With your permission, I'm going to show this.
Yes, please.
The audience. So this is a one, and she's talking about these 8 pillars. Keep in mind, she wrote every page in Figma page. She wrote everything. On a side note, this is beautifully written, and you will love reading this book. And I've given a link in the video description. It is available in Google and also Amazon. So click it, buy it. And if you are mainly if you are living in US, H1 visa holder, you got to read this. And also if you want to travel to US, you got to read this book. Sorry, over back to you.
Thank you. That's very, very kind. And of course, I was the first author of the book. I co-authored it with a lawyer because one of the first things I realized about this topic is the margin for error is very, very low. You can't give wrong suggestions to people because you're leading them down the wrong path then. So I co-authored this with Samir Kedekar, who's a veteran immigration lawyer, and he proofread the entire book like 10 times to make sure nothing in there is inaccurate. So people who are reading this can be assured of its legal authority. So they don't think it's just me writing based on my research.
Yeah, that you talked about 8 pillars, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure our audience wanted to learn about these 8 pillars. But before going into it, one question I have in my mind, right? So I came through a L1 visa, and I got my citizenship in probably in 6-7 years span of time from the first year. In H1, people know that they can get citizenship. It's a long process, but they do know that they can get citizenship. But can they get citizenship through this O visa?
Yes, the short answer is yes. The O visa is simply a temporary work visa. If your question is, can I apply for a green card while being on the O visa? Absolutely, you can. It is a dual intent visa. In fact, most people on O visa apply for something called the EB1 green card route or EB1A.
Correct.
And that is the exceptional ability green card, which is the US giving you green card based on purely your merit and your talent.
Okay, awesome. So answer is yes, you can get green card, you can get citizenship. Only thing is you need to demonstrate your uniqueness, the value you are adding to US economy, I think in short. And okay, great. So Soundarya, can we talk about these 8 pillars, because that is what people really wanted to understand if they wanted to.
For founders who've raised money, the good news is you raising money can help you meet 2 criteria at once, and maybe even 3. So number 1, let's say you raised $1 million through a top accelerator program in the world, like Y Combinator, Techstars, and the likes. It helps you satisfy the high salary criteria, which is, do you make remuneration in the 10th percentile of people in your industry? And that doesn't just mean base salary. It means equity. It means stock bonuses, all of that. So as a founder, you probably have a lot of equity in your company.
Correct.
So second is, it helps you satisfy the awards criteria, where it says that you've been awarded something, you've been given an award that is of national or international significance. So if you go through a top program, it can be considered an award. And lastly, membership. So membership criteria says you are a member of a distinguished organization, and you've been deemed worthy of being a member by other experts. So once again, going through a top program helps you satisfy. So you could make a case that it satisfies 3 criteria. Ideally, you should have more evidence than just raising money, though. So that's one idea. Second is, founders can judge other founders. So I highly recommend, if you're a founder listening to this, go look for judging competitions in your field, pitch competitions, where you can go and judge other people's work in your field. Hackathons. So that's another way that a lot of founders build their profile. And then there is press. Can you get some press on your company, on what you're doing? And it should be in a reasonably major publication out there. So, for example, TechCrunch is obviously great, but you don't have to go to TechCrunch. TechCrunch, it can also be a smaller publication, but it's still pretty relevant in your field of, say, bioengineering or healthcare, fintech, and so on.
So what you're saying is, hey, if you publish an article LinkedIn, don't claim that as a publication. That is what you mean.
Yeah, LinkedIn article is not going to work. Medium may work for an O1 if it's like a top Medium publication and you had to go through some editorial process. It could work. But yeah, ideally a trade publication is better in your field.
So, just for audience to understand, for you to do a good professional press release, it's going to cost you anywhere between $300 to $800 per press release. So they're going to verify the data authenticity. And for example, for Juggle, we did a press release for our seed round. So they asked us, okay, hey, we want to know the agreement between you and your investors. We want to know whether it is authentic or not. It shocked me. I said, what? Why you are asking all these things? Because they say, hey, we want to make sure this is real. So that is the reason
Yeah.
why the government is really bagging on all this authentic press coverage. And I'm telling you this because, so it is worth, and it is not that much. It is not thousands of dollars. It is very reasonable. So just I wanted to share my experience. So please go ahead.
That's very helpful. And I will say the press releases are not the same as the press that the government is looking for.
Yes.
So a press release is you literally just putting across like 100 websites saying we launched this. But for USCIS to consider the evidence worthy, it needs to be a journalist writing an article where they quote you as an expert, or ideally they're writing the article about you or your company.
Got
So
it.
it's slightly different from a press release. I don't think a press release would work.
Okay, got it. Thanks for sharing. And the reason why I mentioned this is you can use that to say that, hey, I launched this company, I did my fundraiser.
Sure.
So those kind of announcement will be helpful on that. Okay, got it. Soundarya, go ahead.
I think I talked so far about high salary membership, awards, and press. A few more things are original contribution. This is you saying that I've created something that is entirely novel and unique, and it's had an impact in my field. So the most obvious way to show this is a patent that's being used and licensed by companies.
Got it.
But it doesn't have to be a patent. Not everyone is going to get a patent. For example, I showed that I published 2 books in my field, which have had an impact. And I showed the impact through sales, reviews on Amazon, letters from other experts about the book, and so on.
Got it.
And so you could say that your paper, which you published, had a lot of citations.
Got it.
You've developed a novel technique to calculate something in the health tech field, which is being used by hospitals and doctors. And so
Got
you
it.
show impact. So that's original contribution. This is not really something you can just buy, like buying press, You have to have done something truly original.
Correct. The one thing what I want to say, Soundarya, is please don't cook all these things. Many people will misunderstand
Absolutely.
that. Hey, I want to get this visa, so I'm going to cook all these things. I said, please don't do that. The reason why I'm
Yeah.
asking is when you try to cook things, you are going to manipulate the system, and system is going to get harder and harder for a real, genuine entrepreneur or anybody who wants to get through this OS visa. That is what happened in H1, in my perspective. So every year, they add more conditions, more criteria, because they discovered that people all misuse the system. So
Yeah.
my humble request is, hey, be honest and use this only when you can. So sorry, Soundarya, go ahead.
That's a very valid thing to say, and it's kind of a big ask to ask people to not cook something for the sake of the next generation of people who may apply, because some people don't really care about that. But I would say don't cook things because you're going to waste your money, since you might spend $10,000 doing all of these things, and then you spend another $10,000 because it costs that much to apply for the visa. And then they'll send you an RFE, request for evidence, saying that not enough, and then they might deny your visa.
Correct.
So you would have done all of this for nothing. So I think for that sake, it just makes sense to do things in the right way. And so original contribution is number 5. Then there is critical capacity. This is also something founders can probably get, because you're saying you play a critical role in a company that is distinguished. Obviously, a founder plays a critical role, but they have to now show that their company is reasonably distinguished as well. So this means having raised money, making an ARR of at least a few $1 million, being published in press, and so on. That's number 6. Judging, which I did talk about, where you judge the work of others in your field. And scholarly articles, where you publish an article that goes out in one of the outlets out there in your field. So 8 criteria. Let's say that you have something that doesn't fit neatly into any of this. That's okay. There is a 9th criteria called comparable evidence. That's where you can put all of the stuff like getting invited to speak at a conference, panel discussion invites, social media impact. All of that can go under this 9th criteria.
Got it. So end of the day, USCS wanted to know how unique you are and what kind of contribution you are making. And so what is a gift talent you got? So that is what they are looking for. And all these things, because I got I would like to share my journey here. First time L1A it got approved easy. Second time it got approved easy. Unfortunately, my legal team used the same letter they used for the previous application, and with very minor change, and they denied the third time. And after the denial, we started submitting document by document, document by document. It goes to the same officer, because officer got a mindset that, hey, you didn't do anything more. You are here to try to misuse the system. So they denied after 6 months. So we have to stay in India for 6 months. And then, and my son says, at that point of time, I said, you know what? I don't need to be in US to run my company. I can be in India to run my company. So my son says, no, Dad, you have to fight back. Since my son told me to fight back, and then I called my attorney saying, okay, can I apply one more time? And attorney says, absolutely, yes. What is the winning probability? And she said 50%. I said, I would have tried even if you would have told 20%. So you'd said 50%. Don't worry, I will do it. Then I spent personally and looked into it, what they are looking for and what we missed to submit. And I read almost every article published online. I formed a 5-member team within my organization to read this. Then we found, and we exactly know what mistake we made. What mistake we made is like we didn't articulate what I achieved, because I achieved so much. I created US job opportunity. I paid a lot of tax on the 5th and 6th year. Why they're not seeing it? Because that is not articulated very well. So all the mistake is just a draft of the petition. So I drafted the petition with the help of 4-5 members, and I requested my attorney not to change anything, just look from the legal perspective. If I missed anything, let me know. Otherwise, I would like to submit this petition as it is. And then, my attorney was kind enough to accept the request, and they didn't change anything. And as when I submitted, I asked my wife to start packing, because that much confident I am that I will be approved. And guess what? I got approved. Amazing. So being a part of this application is very critical. And for attorney, again, I'm not blaming attorneys, but for attorneys, they're dealing with under different cases, correct? They are not expert. Absolutely. They cannot be in your shoes. You are the one who are in your shoes. So you know what you can do. You know you can differentiate. So you being involved in this process, after hearing from Soundarya, you have to play a major role in this process, not just paying a fees to attorney, and attorney says, okay, you get my visa. I don't think so that's going to work based on my experience. I'm saying, Soundarya.
Actually, you made 2 very good points I want to reiterate for people listening. Number one is, the O1 is not about it's not about just showing all the evidence. It's about making a compelling story, saying that because of all of this evidence, I am one of the top experts in this very, very, very specific field. So it doesn't have to be engineering or science. It has to be very specific. Like, I am an expert when it comes to using cloud databases to do remote patient monitoring for this specific industry. I'm just making up words. But it has to be very specific. And everything you share in your application as evidence should be around those few words that you said, that's my niche, my area of expertise. So that's number one. Number two is what you said about being involved, because too often people are very hands-off. They pay the lawyer fee and then they just leave the process. And the lawyer is never going to care about this as much as you. This is your life. For them, it's another job. And even the best lawyers who actually get very involved, for them, it's still a business. It's what they're getting paid for. So you have to get involved.
Absolutely. And also, again, we are not blaming any lawyers, but they cannot be in your shoes. Your life is yours, and they will not see what you can see. For example, writing an article and making other professional authors or reporters to write about you, attorneys cannot do that. Attorneys cannot influence that, but you can. You can reach all those publishers, share your success story, and one publisher will pick up. But thing is, the question is, you have to reach all the professional publishers. Our lawyers cannot do it, but you can do it. So that is what I think we are trying to convey here. So Soundarya, if someone is here in H1 right? So can they try this O visa?
You can try it for the O visa anywhere in the world, regardless of where you are, what visa you have right now. You can do it
Got
from an F1, you can do it from H1B. And something you said earlier, you said that you can't really start a company on the H1B. So I actually want to just share that you can be a founder through the H1 visa. It's tricky, but you can do it. And I know people who've done it. In fact, in my book, we talk about an immigrant who did that, called Victoria. So maybe I just want to spend a minute telling people that if you're on H1 right now in the US, you can technically incorporate a company, raise money for it, and file for an H1B through that company with you being the CEO or CTO or whatever, and get it approved. It's the scrutiny is more than the O1 because the H1B is not traditionally meant for founders, but
correct.
it doesn't mean it's impossible. And it may be the better option for founders who have, say, raised a lot of money, who can pay themselves the minimum wage salary that you have to be
Correct.
paid, and who don't want to spend months creating an O1 profile because the O1 visa, my application was 750 pages long. 750 pages. It took months to create that. Maybe you don't want to do that. And an H1B is another good option.
So when you awarded a O visa, what is the duration? Because I know L1 they gave me for 2 years and H1 is for 4 years. So what is the duration normally you get for
Sure.
O visa?
So the H1B is up to 6 years, actually. You get
Yeah.
it for 3 years first, and then you can extend for 3 more years, and that's it.
Mhm.
The O visa is very similar. You get it for 3 years, and after that, you generally have to extend for 1 year. Every year, you have to keep extending.
Okay.
Sometimes they also give it to you for 3 more years. I think you have to
Got
make a case for it.
Okay, got it. So 3 plus 1 1 or 3 plus 3. So what happened after fifth year? Can you apply for green card or you
No,
qualify
no,
to apply
no.
for?
I'm saying you can keep renewing it forever. You can do 3 plus 1 plus 1 until infinity if you want it.
But in L1, I know that if I am in 5 years for L1, I'm qualified to apply for green card. So
Exactly. So
what is the qualification or year on O visa?
with the O1, you can apply for a green card the day you get your O1, the next day if you want. There is no
Oh,
qualification. I mean, think of these as two different train tracks. You get on this train. You can switch to the other train anytime you want, as long as you have the documents for it.
got
And
it.
the same goes
So
for H1B, by the way. I get my H1B today. Tomorrow, I can file a green card if I wanted through the EB1 route.
yeah, but again, that is a different route, different process, So I think this is a great story you shared, Soundarya. So let us talk about your personal journey. Correct. You went through this challenge, and now you got your O O1 visa, right? So you are in O1 visa.
I also got my green card I-140 approved through the national interest waiver route, which,
Okay.
once again, no one knows about it because people aren't educated on these topics. But I urge people who are listening to me to go Google something called the EB2NIW, National Interest Waiver. It doesn't really help Indian nationals by getting them a green card faster because it's the same EB2Q, which is quite long. You can skip the perm labor certification 2 year process, and you get to have this I-140 attached to you and not a company. You can self-sponsor for it.
Okay, I
So
see. Okay,
I
got it.
have that approved right now.
Oh, okay, great. So you can sponsor yourself. We can get your no. Next step is getting a green card. I think that is next step is easy. So let us talk about why you decided to start this community, Unshackled. Why you wrote this book? What made you to do this book? Because nowadays writing a blog itself a bigger task. Writing a white paper is a bigger task. Writing a long email is a bigger task for people, right? In that case, why you have to strain to write such a phenomenal book, co-authored with the immigration lawyer? Why you have to do this?
Um, Funnily enough, I actually think we're living in this very strange world right now where writing a book can be done within 10 minutes if you want through an AI tool. So anyone can write a book today. Anyone can write an article or an email within like a minute using AI, which equally pisses me off and also amazes me at the same time. But I wrote Unshackled or I write as a profession because I've done it for over 10 years now, since my undergrad days. I didn't set out to be an author someday. I wanted to be a doctor first. And then I think at some point I wanted to be a scientist. And then I thought I'd be a consultant. And then I thought I'd be a product manager. So I've had different interests over the years. But writing has always been it's like coming back home for me. You go on a long trip, and then the feeling you have when you get back home, that's how I think about writing as a profession. It's what I've always come back to after we figure out that this is not going to work for me. So
Got it. So that is a good answer. And I want you to talk about the community you have built around this book.
Yeah. Yes.
If they can join your community, what is a community? If they can join the community, what is the benefit or how they can contribute?
Absolutely. You asked me why I started the community. Like many other things in my life, I didn't plan to do this. I did it because when I was working on the book, and even before, so many people reached out asking, how do I start my O1 process? Like, I heard about this visa. It seems quite hard to get. How do I do this? So I just felt like, why don't we build a community where we bring resources and everything they need in one place? For my first book, I built a community, but I kept it free, so anyone could join. This time around, I decided to not make it free because of many reasons. Number one is I think people don't value things that are free always.
Absolutely agree.
That's my philosophy. And number two is if people paid for it and it became a sustainable business, then it would go on forever. I would have a reason to also keep working on it forever. Correct. And third is also that there was a product market fit that we saw there, that this could be something. There are other Slack communities out there for O1 EB1 aspirants. So, and I think they will do a fantastic job. In fact, my friend Aditi has one. But I wanted to do something that could keep on growing forever. Like you may not see the value in the first few months of this journey, but you will see like 3 years from now, our community could be in a fantastic place. So for someone who is thinking of joining, I would say, especially if you're a founder looking to join, the biggest benefits would be from joining. Number one is we connect potential aspirants with people who've already got the visa. So currently you can book a call with these people and talk to them for free, which is kind of unimaginable otherwise. And second is we connect people with lawyers who provide a free profile evaluation, which otherwise costs several $100s. List of awards, judging competitions, everything that you could think of. So I want the community to be this. The moment you think talent visa, you think, okay, I have to open this community. Like that's how I want people to think about it.
So what is the community name? And of course, team, all of Thala members, that link is going to be in description, so you can definitely click and join. But where they can join, and would you mind sharing the fees or anything associated with it?
Of course, it's public information. We've actually experimented a lot with the fees. We changed it recently again. People should visit unshackled.club, and there when they go, they'll see a become a member option. The current fee is $1,000 for lifetime access to the community. And I'm talking lifetime, which means you may be there for the next 10 years until you get citizenship. Until then, you can be a part of this and keep using all of the resources we have for $1,000, which, I mean, for some people, it's very affordable. Some people, it's not.
So hold on a minute. So for $1,000, I can able to get a consulting or a one-on-one from the people who have got O visa, and I can talk to the lawyer, and then I can have access to all the resources where I can judge or where I can publish, how I can do so and so and so. And also in the community, if I ask a question, you will answer for $1,000.
I'll answer, and you can join monthly workshops with experts every single month forever.
It is a no-brainer. It is actually you are less pricing. I'm an entrepreneur, so you are less pricing. But hey, if it is benefit the community, there is a community cause in it. Good luck. So, but again, I'm telling you why I want to say this is because I want to articulate the value. Sometimes people don't see the value people like you and me add, because I run this Talam channel, entrepreneurship. It's very hard to get hold of people with all this social distraction. Correct. We talk about very important topic, and some video pop-ups talking about a new movie releasing next week. Boom, people get
Yeah.
attracted to it and they're gone. So really, I know the pain of what you're doing, Soundarya, but also I know the value you are bringing to talent community in the world. So thanks for sharing your great experience. And
Thank you.
you're doing a wonderful job, and you are an entrepreneur. I don't know whether you realize or not. You written a book and you create a community, and you just said that, hey, I'm testing the pricing model and we have a new pricing model. And I think you are just getting started. I'd love to connect with you after a year and see what other achievement, whatever interesting journey you did in your life, Soundarya. As a Tamilian, I'm very proud of you, and I'm sure your parents and family members should be proud of you as well. And
Thank
at
you.
this moment, I want to thank all the people, those who helped you to create the book, publish a book, and also create the community. And I would like you to give the final statement before we end the show to Thalam followers.
I don't know the age of your followers and who's looking at this, who's watching this, but one thing I've realized is too many people wait to take risks. They think, they're 24 years old and they think, you know what, I'll quit my job after a few years when I'm settled in. And then a few years pass and they realize, I'll quit my job later on because right now I have a wife to think about, or a husband to think about, or a partner to think about. And then they realize after a few years they may have a child, and that complicates things even more for them. And so I do think there is a very specific golden window of opportunity for people when they can take risks without affecting too many other people in the world. And they should really take the leap of faith at that point. And
Got it.
worst case, you can go back to your corporate life. It's not going anywhere. But that time you have without having a family or children or just people who depend on you, that time is going to go away. So that's my strong belief. And I think, I hope more people take that risk.
Yeah. So Soundarya, to add my one thought on you is all this about lifestyle inflation. I've published a video about lifestyle inflation. They all talk about this currency inflation. Hey, you can buy dollar a product today and you have to buy $1.10 next year, correct? But think about the lifestyle inflation. You live in a $1,000 rental apartment today, and next year you want to buy a home, and you buy a car, and you buy a second car, and then you subscribe to that, you subscribe to this, and suddenly your life monthly budget goes higher. So
Exactly.
nothing wrong. You go to the natural $0 life, you can too. So taking a risk, not taking a risk is the biggest risk a human can take in their life. That is my conclusion, Soundarya.
Beautiful. Not taking risk is the biggest risk. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Awesome, Soundarya. Thank you so much. And I hope you enjoyed this conversation, Liliama. So what do you think?
I loved it. And I'm just so happy that your listeners are founders. And even if one person learns about, this visa for the first time and decides to apply for it, I'd be very happy.
Oh man, trust me, it will be hundreds. I want to say thousands, but I don't want to overpromise.
That's okay.
So definitely it will be hundreds. Okay.
Thanks so much, Anna.